Nestled in the heart of the Himalayas, Mount Kailash stood like a sentinel, its snow-capped peak piercing the azure sky. Revered by Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, and Bonpos alike, the mountain was not merely a geographical marvel. It was a sacred site, steeped in myth and legend. For centuries, pilgrims had traversed its rugged trails, seeking enlightenment and spiritual solace. But as the years passed, whispers of mystery began to swirl around the mountain, tales of climbers who had ventured too close to its icy heart and vanished without a trace. The story begins in the small village of Darchen, the last settlement before the ascent to Kailash. The villagers were a hardy lot, accustomed to the harshness of the terrain and the capriciousness of the weather. They spoke in hushed tones of the mountain's dark side, of those who had ventured forth with dreams of conquest only to never return. To them, Mount Kailash was not just a mountain, it was a living entity, a guardian of ancient secrets. One autumn, a group of climbers arrived in Darchen, drawn by the allure of the mountain and the promise of adventure. Among them was Maya, a seasoned mountaineer with a reputation for conquering the world's highest peaks. She was accompanied by her younger brother, Arjun, eager to prove himself. The group also included Liam, a documentary filmmaker, and Sarah, a botanist fascinated by the unique flora of the region. As they prepared for their ascent, the villagers warned them of the mountain's wrath. Kailash does not take kindly to those who seek to conquer her, an elder warned, his voice trembling with age and reverence. Respect her, and she may allow you passage, but tread carelessly, and you may find yourself lost in her embrace. Maya dismissed the old man's words as superstition, her ambition blinding her to the underlying fear that gripped the villagers. The group set off, their spirits high, unaware of the shadows lurking in the folds of the mountain. The first few days of the climb were exhilarating. The landscape shifted from lush valleys to rocky outcrops, the air growing thinner and colder. They marveled at the breathtaking views, capturing every moment on camera. But as they ascended, the atmosphere changed. The air grew heavy, and an unsettling silence enveloped them. The once vibrant colors of the landscape dulled, and an inexplicable sense of foreboding settled over the group. On the fifth day, as they approached a treacherous pass known as the Gateway of Spirits, the weather turned. A fierce storm descended upon them, snow swirling in a chaotic dance. Visibility plummeted, and the group was forced to huddle together, seeking shelter against the biting wind. In the chaos, they lost their way, the familiar trails obscured by the relentless snowfall. As night fell, they set up camp, the howling wind drowning out their voices. Maya, determined to keep spirits high, suggested they share stories of their past climbs. But as they spoke, a sense of unease settled among them. Liam, who had been documenting their journey, suddenly fell silent, his gaze fixed on the shadows that danced at the edge of their campfire. "Do you feel that?" he whispered, his voice barely audible over the wind. "What are you talking about?" Arjun replied, brushing off Liam's unease. But Maya felt it too, a chill that crept into her bones, a whisper of something ancient and powerful lurking just beyond their firelight. The next morning the storm had passed, but the mountain had transformed. The landscape was unrecognizable, and the group realized they were lost. Panic set in as they tried to retrace their steps, but the paths had shifted, as if the mountain itself had conspired against them. Days turned into a blur of confusion and despair. Supplies dwindled, and the group began to fracture under the strain. One by one, they began to disappear. First, Sarah ventured off to collect samples of rare plants, promising to return shortly. Hours turned into days, and when she failed to reappear, the group was plunged into despair. Then Liam, driven by a compulsion he couldn't explain, wandered off to capture the mountain's essence on film, leaving only a cryptic note behind. "I must follow the shadows," it read. Maya and Arjun were left alone, their bond strained by fear and uncertainty. They searched for their friends, calling out into the abyss, but the mountains swallowed their voices. Each night, as they huddled together in their tent, they could hear whispers carried on the wind, echoing the names of those who had vanished. As the days dragged on, the brothers' hope began to wane. One evening, as they sat by the dying embers of their fire, Maya recounted the tales the villagers had shared about the mountain. "They say," she began, her voice trembling, that Kailash has a will of its own. It watches over those who respect it, but it punishes the reckless. The shadows that lurk here, they are the souls of those who dared to conquer her. Arjun shivered, glancing nervously at the darkening horizon. You don't really believe that, do you? It's just a story to scare us. But what if it's true? Maya replied, her eyes wide with fear. What if the mountain is alive? What if it's protecting something? The wind howled around them, and for a moment they could have sworn they heard a distant echo of laughter, soft, mocking, and chilling. They huddled closer together, the warmth of their bodies a small comfort against the encroaching cold. As night fell, the shadows deepened, and the stars above flickered like distant eyes watching their every move. Maya couldn't shake the feeling that they were being observed, that the mountain was aware of their presence. The whispers returned, more insistent this time, calling out to them, intertwining with the sound of the wind. Arjun, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, we need to leave. We can't stay here. We have to find a way down. But where do we go? He asked, his voice strained with desperation. We don't even know where we are. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through their camp, extinguishing their fire and plunging them into darkness. Panic surged through Maya as she fumbled for her flashlight, the beam cutting through the blackness like a knife. Stay close, she shouted, her heart racing. They clung to each other, the darkness closing in around them. As they stumbled through the snow, the whispers grew louder, wrapping around them like a shroud. The shadows seemed to flicker and dance just beyond the reach of their light, taunting them, leading them deeper into the mountain's heart. Maya's mind raced with thoughts of their missing friends. We have to find Sarah and Liam, she insisted, though a part of her was terrified of what they might find. Hours passed, and exhaustion began to take its toll. The cold seeped into their bones, and the relentless wind howled like a banshee, drowning out their cries. Just when they thought they could go no further, a faint glow appeared in the distance. Look, Arjun exclaimed, pointing towards the light. Maybe it's a way out. They trudged towards it, hope igniting within them. As they approached, they realized it was a small cave, the entrance partially obscured by snow and ice. The glow emanated from within, beckoning them closer. Maya, should we go in? Arjun hesitated, uncertainty etched on his face. We have no choice, she replied, her voice firm. We can't stay out here. Together they stepped into the cave, the warm glow enveloping them like a comforting embrace. Inside, they found a breathtaking sight. Walls adorned with ancient carvings, depicting scenes of worship and reverence towards the mountain. In the center of the cave stood a small altar, adorned with offerings of flowers and incense, still smoldering. This must be a sacred site, Maya whispered, awe and fear intertwining. We should pay our respects. As they approached the altar, the air thickened with a palpable energy. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a woman draped in flowing robes, her eyes shimmering like the stars above. Welcome, seekers of truth, she spoke, her voice echoing softly in the cave. You have come to the heart of Kailash, where the shadows dwell. Maya and Arjun exchanged bewildered glances, their fear momentarily forgotten. Who are you? Maya asked, her voice trembling. I am a guardian of this mountain, the woman replied. I watch over those who seek to understand the balance between ambition and reverence. Your friends have ventured too far, driven by their desires. They have lost their way in the shadows. What do you mean? Arjun interjected, panic rising in his chest. Where are they? We have to find them. The guardian raised her hand, silencing him. To find them, you must confront the shadows within yourselves. Only then can you reclaim what has been lost. Maya felt a rush of emotions, fear, anger, regret. What do we have to do? She asked, determination rising within her. Embrace the darkness, for it is a part of you, the guardian instructed. Only by acknowledging your fears can you find the strength to overcome them. As the guardian spoke, the cave began to shimmer, the walls pulsating with light. Maya and Arjun felt a rush of energy as the shadows around them began to swirl, forming shapes that mirrored their deepest fears and regrets. Maya found herself standing before a vision of her past, a younger version of herself, standing at the base of a different mountain, filled with ambition and determination. But this time she was not alone. Beside her stood her father, his face etched with worry. Maya, Don't go, he pleaded, his voice echoing in the cave. You don't need to prove anything. You're enough as you are. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized how much she had pushed away those who cared for her in her relentless pursuit of greatness. I'm sorry, she whispered, her heart aching with guilt. I thought conquering mountains would make me feel whole. The vision shifted, and she saw herself standing at the summit of a peak, alone and triumphant. But instead of joy, she felt a profound emptiness. What have I done? She cried out, her voice breaking. I've lost so much in my quest for glory. As the shadows receded, she turned to see Arjun facing his own fears. He stood in a darkened room, surrounded by the remnants of their childhood, photos, toys, and memories. In the corner, he saw himself, a boy who had always lived in his sister's shadow, yearning for her approval. Why can't you see me? The younger Arjun cried, tears streaming down his face. I'm not just your little brother. Arjun felt the weight of his own insecurities crashing down on him. I never meant to make you feel that way, he said, his voice trembling. I just wanted to be like you. The guardian's voice echoed through the cave, urging them to confront their truths. Acknowledge your shadows, and you will find the light within. Maya reached out to Arjun, her hand trembling as she grasped his. We've both been lost in our own ways, she said, her voice steadying. But we can't let our fears define us. We have to find our friends. With newfound resolve, they closed their eyes and focused on the bond they shared. The warmth of their connection illuminated the darkness, pushing back the shadows that had haunted them. As they opened their eyes, the cave shimmered with a brilliant light, illuminating the path before them. Now, go, the guardian urged, her voice filled with encouragement. Follow the light, and you will find what you seek. Together, Maya and Arjun stepped out of the cave, the shadows retreating behind them. The mountain felt different now, less like an adversary and more like a guardian, guiding them on their journey. They followed the glowing path that wound through the snow, their hearts filled with hope. As they navigated the treacherous terrain, they called out for Sarah and Liam, their voices echoing against the icy cliffs. The wind carried their cries, intertwining with the whispers of the mountain, urging them onward. After what felt like an eternity, they stumbled upon a familiar sight, Sarah's backpack, half buried in the snow. Panic surged through them as they dug through the white drifts, desperate to find their friend. Sarah, Maya shouted, her voice breaking. Where are you? Just as despair threatened to engulf them, they heard a faint sound, a soft moan, barely audible above the wind. They followed the sound, their hearts racing, until they found Sarah, huddled against a rock, her face pale and drawn. Sarah! Arjun exclaimed, rushing to her side. Thank God you're alive! What happened? Maya asked, kneeling beside her. We thought we lost you. I got lost, Sarah stammered, her voice weak. I thought I could find the rare plants, but the storm came, and I couldn't find my way back. I'm so sorry. Maya wrapped her arms around Sarah, relief flooding through her. It's okay. We're here now. We'll get you back. With Sarah leaning on them for support, they continued their search for Liam. The shadows still lingered, but now they felt less threatening, more like remnants of the fears they had faced together. As they ventured deeper into the mountain, they came upon a clearing illuminated by the soft glow of the moon. In the center stood Liam, his camera in hand, staring into the distance as if entranced. Liam, Maya called out, her heart racing. What are you doing? He turned slowly, a look of wonder on his face. I was following the shadows, he whispered, his voice distant. They led me here. Liam, we need to go, Arjun urged, fear creeping back into his heart. We can't stay here. But Liam shook his head, his eyes wide with revelation. I can't leave yet, he said, his voice filled with a strange mix of excitement and fear. I think I understand now. The shadows, they're not just a threat. They're a part of this place, a part of us. They show us what we need to confront. Maya stepped closer, her brow furrowed with concern. Liam, we've faced enough darkness already. We need to stick together and get out of here. But Liam remained rooted to the spot, his gaze fixed on the swirling shadows that danced around him. No, Maya, you don't understand. The mountain is alive. It wants us to see, to feel, to embrace our fears. I can't leave until I capture this moment, this connection. Arjun's heart raced as he glanced at Maya. torn between wanting to pull Liam away and understanding the pull of the mountain's allure. Liam, please, you're not thinking clearly. This isn't just about you anymore. We're all in danger. Suddenly, the shadows around Liam thickened, swirling like a tempest. He raised his camera, capturing the ethereal dance of darkness and light. You have to see this, he shouted, his voice rising above the howling wind. Maya felt a surge of desperation. Liam, stop! You're losing yourself. She reached out, but the shadows seemed to push her back, a barrier between them. In that moment, the Guardian's words echoed in Maya's mind. To find them, you must confront the shadows within yourselves. She took a deep breath, steeling herself against the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. Liam, she called out, her voice steady. You need to confront your fears. You can't let them consume you. Liam hesitated, the camera lowering slightly as he looked at her, confusion clouding his eyes. But what if I miss something? What if I never understand? Understanding comes from within, Maya urged, her heart racing. You have to let go of the need to capture everything. You're more than just a documentarian. You're our friend, and we need you. The shadows flickered, and for a moment, Liam seemed to waver, caught between the darkness and the light of their friendship. I don't want to lose myself, he admitted, his voice trembling. Then come back to us, Arjun added, stepping forward. We're stronger together. We can face whatever this mountain throws at us, but we need you with us. The shadows pulsed around Liam, almost as if they were trying to pull him deeper into their embrace. But he took a step back, shaking his head as if waking from a trance. You're right, he whispered, his voice breaking. I can't let this place take me. With a sudden burst of energy, he turned and ran towards them, the shadows retreating as he broke their hold. Maya and Arjun rushed forward, enveloping him in a tight embrace. Relief washed over them as they felt the warmth of their connection push back the lingering darkness. Let's get out of here, Maya said, her voice firm. We've faced enough of the mountain's shadows. We need to find a way down. Together, the three of them turned away from the clearing, the shadows receding behind them. They retraced their steps, the path illuminated by the moonlight that filtered through the trees. As they moved, they could feel the mountain's presence shifting, as if it were watching them, acknowledging their courage. With Sarah leaning on Arjun for support, they made their way through the snow, calling out for help. The whispers of the mountain faded, replaced by the sound of their own voices echoing through the night. As they navigated the treacherous terrain, they finally reached a familiar landmark, the twisted tree that marked the beginning of their ascent. Relief flooded through them as they realized they were close to safety. Just a little further, Maya encouraged, her heart pounding with hope. We can do this. But as they moved forward, the ground beneath them shifted, and a low rumble echoed through the air. The mountain seemed to shake, as if protesting their departure. Run! Arjun shouted, urgency lacing his voice. They sprinted towards the tree, the wind howling around them, the shadows swirling in a final, desperate attempt to hold them back. With one last burst of energy, they reached the tree, its gnarled branches offering a sense of refuge. They huddled together, breathless and terrified, as the mountain roared in frustration. Suddenly, the ground beneath them stilled, and the shadows receded, leaving them in an eerie silence. The moon shone brightly above, illuminating the path ahead. Is it over? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Maya glanced back at the mountain, its towering continuum, peak now peaceful, no longer the ominous presence it once was. I think it is, she replied, her voice filled with a mix of relief and awe. The mountain has let us go. We faced its trials, and we came out the other side. As dawn began to break, they descended the final path, their minds heavy with the memories of their harrowing journey. The village of Darchan came into view, a beacon of safety and warmth against the unforgiving landscape. The villagers greeted them with a mix of relief and reverence, their eyes filled with gratitude that the group had survived the mountain's embrace. As the climbers recounted their experiences, the villagers nodded in understanding, their own eyes flickering with the knowledge of the mountain's mysteries. Maya, Arjun, Sarah, and Liam stood together, the bond between them stronger than ever. They had faced their shadows, confronted their fears, and learned the value of friendship and humility in the face of nature's majesty. In the days that followed, they reflected on their journey, drawing strength from the lessons they had learned. Mount Kailash, the mighty sentinel of the Himalayas, had revealed its secrets to them, an understanding that true conquest comes not from climbing its peaks, but from respecting its spirit. As they prepared to leave Darchan and return to their lives, they knew that the shadows of Kailash would remain with them, a reminder of the power of nature and the eternal balance between ambition and reverence. Their hearts filled with gratitude, they bid farewell to the village, carrying the mountain's wisdom with them on all their future endeavors.